evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, the largest single-screen drive-in in the United States. We're certainly glad you could be with us this evening, and don't forget the concession stand is open with all kinds of great things to eat and drink.
Mahoning Drive-In Radio. Welcome back to another episode of, in case you missed it, Mahoning Drive-In Radio. Mark here, General Manager at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater in Lehighton, Pennsylvania, coming to you with another episode of a show that celebrates old movies and drive-ins and 35 millimeter and all that falls in between those cracks. Today I'm joined by Dave. Joined with Dave or by Dave? Today, Dave joins me. Dave Wirt, lot manager, the man who brings you those amazing slides that you see before the films at the theater, between the films at the theater, and if you're a Patreon member during the virtual shows. Dave, how the heck are you?
I am doing fantastic. Great to talk to you here today. And I am already working on slides for 2026.
Excellent.
So I have several weeks mostly done already. So very excited.
It's been great, too, that you do these for the Patreon shows. For the Simplex level of Patreon, the top tier, we do a virtual show once a month year-round. And Dave will give us, slides that, like, the public hasn't seen yet. But he's also been making slides for the road shows that we have coming up in February and March this year that really only the people who are Patreon members are ever going to see. But they're super fun. And if you've ever seen a Dave slide, they really speak to you as a fan of whatever that slide is referring to. And they're very funny, and I don't know how you do it, and I don't know how you do them so quickly, but we sure do appreciate it.
I always look at it and say every movie is somebody's fandom. Every movie is a movie that somebody loves. So if you come out to the Mahoning Drive-In, or you go to one of our road shows, or you watch one of our Patreon events, I want to reach out and I want to make that person with that fandom feel seen. So it's my pleasure to do it. I enjoy doing it.
That's what I've always said, is that those slides, and so much of what we do, it's not just a sign that says movies. It shows that we actually know this stuff and love this stuff. And if you're a fan of that kind of stuff, you come here and you are amongst your people.
I am your people.
So today we're here to talk about some recent retro viewings. We don't do this much. We do this on the Patreon shows, but we don't often do this on the regular podcast, which, again, if you're a Patreon member, you get exclusive podcasts once a month where we talk about, a lot of times it's answering questions or addressing topics that the membership throws us. And sometimes it's, what you been watching lately? So this is one of those, what you been watching lately episodes, but for the general public at large. And we're just going to go through what we've been watching lately and give our thoughts and discuss it a little bit for about 50 minutes. Dave, would you like to start?
Sure. There was a movie I watched over the weekend, and because I was in a mind for a Western, and I went and I pulled out what I think is probably one of the best Westerns ever made, and that is the original Magnificent Seven. Love that film. Mark, what are your thoughts on that one?
Well, the first thing I think of when anybody brings up Magnificent Seven is that it's a remake of Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, and it is a film that has been remade several times, not as the Magnificent Seven. There were a lot of sequels, and then there was a Magnificent Seven remake within the last, whenever I say 10 years, assume it might be up to 20. And there was it the Seven Magnificent Gladiators, which was, I think, maybe Canon did a Gladiator remake with Sybil Danning. And then there was, I believe, a movie called Space Raiders that was a Corman production, was more or less a remake of Seven Samurai. But The Magnificent Seven is great. It's one of those movies. I always equate Westerns with Saturday afternoons because that's when I used to see them on TV when I was a kid on like the local independent station.
Yep.
And I saw it back then, and it's just cool. It's a cool all-star cast. They all look cool, and it's a great Western take on the Men on a Mission movie.
It is kind of one of those where, like, the more modern Westerns always kind of now veer towards the graying of the good guys and the bad guys kind of thing, whereas this is just one of those very simplistic Westerns where there's good guys and there's bad guys. And yeah, the good guys are kind of bad guys, but they're the heroes. They're the guys we're rooting for, and there's the bad guys. And I think sometimes that kind of simplistic, just easy approach is is kind of nice. It's a throwback, but it's mindless entertainment, I guess you can say.
And the score was really good in that too. Was it Elmer
Oh,
Bernstein who did the score for
Elmer
that?
Bernstein's classic score on that thing. You just hear that score and you automatically are just like get pumped. It's such a iconic score.
And then the sequels were Guns of the Magnificent Seven and the Magnificent Seven Ride. I don't know if there was one more after that or not, but I think I've seen them all over time and with varying, retention of cast members. And then it's interesting, Yul Brynner is one of the seven, one of the titular seven in that film, and he would go on to star as an evil robot gunslinger in Westworld, looking pretty
That's
much the way he does in Magnificent Seven.
almost identical. Same black costume, same black hat. I mean, literally, he picked him right up out of Magnificent Seven and put him in Westworld. Yeah, he's great in that. And there's a new hour release of that coming out very soon, I think in February, that I talked myself into pre-ordering.
I do a review thing online for those who don't know, and I get advanced copies of things. And I just got that like 2 days ago, and I've been really itching to watch it because I haven't watched Westworld in a really long time. Probably since the 90s, I would say. But there's Westworld, and then there was the sequel, Future World, that AIP did. And the first one, at least, is really, really good. But Magnificent Seven, who are the guys? It's James Coburn. It's Yul Brynner. My memory kind of peters out after that. Is Steve McQueen
Steve
one of them?
McQueen. How can you forget Steve McQueen? Robert Vaughn. Those are the names. Charles Bronson. Those are the big seven. The other three are these are the guys who are, well, there's the, oh my gosh, the villager who turns into becomes a gunslinger but then goes back to being a villager. And then of course you can't forget Eli Wallach as the evil warlord or bandito there. That was such a fun thing. It's sad to me that every time you mention Westerns, like everybody almost immediately goes, "Oh, I don't like Westerns."
Oh, I know.
And there are so many good ones. I mean, I was just thinking about like some of my favorite Westerns. And apart from like obviously the Leone trilogy, there's Once Upon a Time in the West and the original Django. But then there's a lot of great American ones. Obviously, The Magnificent Seven, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I love that movie.
I think it was the atypical Western that was the foot in the door for me because as a kid there was the John Wayne films and the old black and white Westerns and all that stuff, and I wasn't interested. It just was too, I don't know if square is the right word, but it wasn't something that engaged me. And then I caught Fistful of Dollars and I was like, hello, a Western could be like this with the music and the style and the perversity and the cruelty and all that. And that opened the door to watching. I mean, I'll watch a John Wayne Western now, but it's the spaghetti Westerns that interest me and the later 60s Westerns that Hollywood did sort of in reaction to the spaghetti Westerns. There are a lot of good ones, and I feel the same way whenever like we do a virtual show or a show at the theater and I mention Western, a lot of people are like, I'm out. And I'm like, but wait, it can be so much more than what you think it is.
Exactly. Just think about like The Wild Bunch, how transgressive that movie was. I mean, it was like such a amazing shot to everybody in the late 60s that this movie was that aggressively violent in slow motion. It changed the Westerns from being John Wayne to being like, wow, this could be an actual tool for storytelling.
And it's this era that at least is perceived to be literally the Wild West. It's anything can happen. You can tell any kind of story in the context of these really sparsely populated areas where there wasn't necessarily law in order or strict morals to guide people. And you can tell I mean, there's in the 60s you had Westerns that were basically casting the cowboys more or less as hippies, like that movie Dirty Little Billy, very obscure Western with Michael J. Pollard that we ran as one of the Simplex Patreon screenings. It was a really interesting film, and it was really sort of presenting, for the most part, counterculture ideals within the case of a Western, let's say. Within the bullet casing of a Western, the gunpowder was, hey, maybe we shouldn't be killing each other and treating people who are different weird. Uh,
Well, think about Soldier Blue. I mean,
Fantastic and very hard to watch film.
Exactly. Even something as mainstream, one of my favorite Westerns has always been The Outlaw Josie Wales. And that one really does speak a lot to the treatment of Native Americans in that film. The Native Americans weren't the villains. He went out and was able to talk to them and reach peace with them, whereas the Bluecoats were the ones he couldn't negotiate and reach peace with. So interesting kind of way of approaching it and using a main star like Clint Eastwood to be able to put that message out there.
It features one of my all-time favorite lines in any genre of film. Dying ain't much of a living, boy. Speaking of Texas, the first film I would like to discuss is a film that somehow has eluded me for 44 years, and that's The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas from 1982.
Oh, wow.
I've always been a big Burt Reynolds fan. That was still pretty much, if not at the height of his popularity, it was when he was at his peak, looking steeply downhill at that point. And it's Burt Reynolds and Dolly Parton. It's a comedy musical based on a stage play, based on an actual event of the Chicken Ranch in Texas, which was this sort of small town house of ill repute that ran up against a local crusader trying to shut it down. And everybody who lived near it was just like, yeah, those ladies, they don't bother anybody. They make donations to the town. Everybody leaves happy. What's the problem? And it stars Burt Reynolds as the sheriff of the town who is having a fling with Dolly Parton, who's the madam of the whorehouse. And when a crusader for good and ratings in the form of Dom DeLuise with a very ridiculous wig comes to town to try to expose this on TV, it's just like the circus that erupts around that. It's really funny. It's got a great cast. You've got Charles Durning in there. You've got it opens with Jim Nabors saying something to the effect of, "It was the nicest little whorehouse you'd ever want to see." The music in it is fun. It's where the song "I Will Always Love You" came from, that everybody equates with Whitney Houston in The Bodyguard. I was really surprised. I'd never heard that song in its original form before the Whitney Houston one. And when the Whitney Houston one came out, you couldn't not hear it. And when I found out years later that it was originally a Dolly Parton song, I thought that was interesting. But the idea that, when was The Bodyguard? 1990, 91?
90s, yeah, definitely.
That they would take a song to be this big, dramatic, soulful tune for Whitney Houston from a comedy about a whorehouse from 10 years earlier. It's kind of stunning. I need to find out how that came to be. But I had never seen it when I was a kid. I was a little too young to be able to see it in the theater. My parents wouldn't take me to see it. And I don't think they would have let me watch it on HBO when it was in heavy rotation. I remember when it was. And I just never caught up with it. It's one that I've had on DVD for years that a friend gave me, and I never got around to watching it until my local Alamo played it like last week for Dolly Parton's birthday. And I was like, sure, this will be fun. And I was just laughing. And I was in, for me, the early 80s, 80 to like 83 is a very sweet spot of when I first started going to the movies all the time and being really conscious of new movies and what was going on with them. And to be able to be in a theater yanked by my lapels back to 1982 was a really kind of cozy place to be for 2 hours. Do you have any thoughts or memories of The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas?
Absolutely love that movie. That one was an HBO staple. They used to show that one on HBO all the time. And I got away with watching that because my dad watched it first and basically came to the conclusion it was just music and dancing. And the only thing salacious about it really was the title. So I love that movie. There's so many great songs in that film. And Charles Durning's Governor, the song that he does as the governor, the dance little sidestep.
It's fantastic.
Oh my God. He's so good in that. Look up the story on Dolly Parton and basically her selling the rights to that song to Whitney Houston, and then the money that she got from selling that song to Whitney Houston, she donated to she like created this great charity, or so it was all donated to like a really good cause, the money that she got from that song. So also Dolly Parton is one of like the greatest people on the planet. So
I was really surprised how good she is in that movie. I mean, a lot of times singers can be very emotive in song and they can be really good on stage or in music videos, but when you put them in front of a camera to act, Madonna, they are terrible. And she is so good. And I think it was her second film. I believe 9 to 5 in 1980 was her first movie. And she was good in that.
oh yeah, she's a hoot in 9 to 5. I mean, you got a great trinity in that one. You've got, Jane Fonda, you've got Lily Tomlin, Dolly Parton. The three of them work together in that movie so fantastically. And considering that was like I think her film debut.
I think so.
Wow. Like she jumped in with a serious actor and a serious comedian and held her own.
What impressed me so much in Horror House is that she's very funny. When the dramatics come in, she's completely believable, and she's just a ton of fun. She's like so good in that movie, and I don't know why that's a surprise. I mean, she's just like this American cultural icon for so long, but you don't think of her necessarily. I mean, she did other movies. She did Straight Talk and Steel Magnolias and all that, so maybe I shouldn't be surprised. But to me, it was more like 2 movies in, she's that good. And funny enough, I also saw 9 to 5 in the theater the other day because it was her birthday weekend at my local Alamo. And first time I'd seen it on the big screen since 1980. It is still so funny. And that was one of those movies I saw endlessly when it first hit HBO. And I was surprised. At best, the last time I saw 9 to 5 was in the 90s, if even then. If even that recently. And I knew so many lines from that movie and all of the beats and the timing and the looks on people's faces. It was amazing how you see something on a loop as a kid like that on cable and it burns itself into your brain.
Dabney Coleman in that is amazing. When they have him hooked up to the garage door opener and that whole outfit with the garage door opener, they push the button and it like hauls him up, he's hanging from the ceiling. That's just hilarious. How do you not laugh at that?
I can still clearly, there are certain movies that I saw in the theater as a kid that I clearly remember when the audience laughed so loud it like overpowered the dialogue for the next line or two. And that's one of those movies. So even though the audience I saw it with was relatively small, it was in a huge theater too. It was relatively small because I think there'd been a snowstorm that day or something. People were still laughing out loud riotously throughout the film and applauding and all that. And it just made it again, it took me back to being a little kid in the theater again.
Yeah, I just totally that one and yeah, back to the best little whorehouse in Texas. That I think is like when Bert was like at his peak charm. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like he could get away with anything. I mean, he did his own singing and nobody, yeah, it's like
it's okay.
It's okay.
I have his album, which is not as good.
It's still charming because it's like he's just, and he has that twinkle in his eye in this movie that you can tell he's having fun making it. You can tell he's having a great time with Dolly. And when he was having a good time making a movie, it just was always a fun movie. Like the stuff he did with like Hal Needham. He always had fun with him. And they always made fun movies.
Are those movies any good? Sorry.
I don't know.
Who you're talking to. We've just been joined by Virgil. How are you, sir?
Hey guys, what's happening?
Hey, we were boss.
Just talking about retro films we've seen lately. I think we just wrapped up discussing the best little whorehouse in Texas. And when I was a kid, they didn't want to put the word whorehouse on the marquee of my local theater, so they called it Best House in Texas.
Hey, that works.
And I want to say there might have been some areas where print advertising called it that too, just because, scandalous.
It's a hard sell. I can't take the kids to go see that one.
Surprisingly, as Dave and I were saying, it's not that racy. I mean, it's a lot of women in like negligees, and I think there's maybe 2 instances of fleeting nudity. But I was surprised. Also surprised to see adult film legends Kay Parker and Kitten Natividad very, very briefly.
Wow.
They have this sequence at the beginning where they're talking about the house through the years, and you see different eras, and it's just very fleeting. But I was like, wow, they actually got some legit people to be in this.
Yeah.
Is there anything you have seen retro lately?
Me, myself?
Yeah.
I've been digging in. It's we got screwed over by the snow, so...
Yeah.
Yesterday, we started watching Star Wars: The Holiday Special. Oh my goodness!
Have you never seen it?
I have seen it, but it has been a long time. And Virgie's really into Star Wars right now, like really into it. And boy, oh boy, this thing is it's hard to put it into words, you know? It is almost laughable at every single turn, you know? What what are your guys' feelings on this thing? What was your exposure to the holiday special?
I stumbled across it the night it was originally on. And as a 4-year-old who was Star Wars obsessed and had no idea, I'm like, what? What? It's Star Wars on my TV. And it was shot on video, so it looked like real. I loved it at the time. So I'm always going to be an apologist for that, to explain that it was made as a variety show and it's not that different from variety shows of that era with how
Totally,
geeky it
yeah.
is. And it was made for kids, and it was made to basically keep Star Wars alive until the next movie came out. There's an excellent documentary about it that I can't remember the name, but it came out like a year ago. It's
Oh,
on.
I know. I've seen that documentary. It's great. Hey, listen, any special that makes B. Arthur part of Star Wars canon cannot be bad.
Yeah, that was a nice treat. A lot of time spending with Chewie's family. It's like,
Yeah.
what an interesting choice to go that way of all the things. We didn't make it very far into it until Virgie was like, yeah, turn this off. Virgie, what did you think of it?
It was the worst looking thing I've ever seen. Besides that weird Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles holiday special.
Oh yeah. I should keep exposing them to all these holiday specials.
Yes, but the animated section in the holiday special introduced Boba Fett, launching a pre-Empire Boba Fett action figure that is still legendary to this day.
See, we should have stuck it out a little bit, Virgie. We should have stuck it out.
You know, if you go on Disney Plus, they have that Boba Fett cartoon as something you can watch by itself, and it looks phenomenal. Like it's fully
Yeah, they
restored.
have the Droids cartoon. There's a lot
Yeah.
of fun retro Star Wars.
Peripheral stuff.
Yeah, Clone Wars is what he's been pushing, and that's just like a total blank spot for me where I don't know, it just must have totally cruised past my attention when it was out, you know.
I wasn't paying attention at the time, but I really don't like the animation style. So, however good the writing might be, I visually can't take it.
Yeah, it's all sorts of different characters and new characters, and like he's been quizzing me, and his knowledge has far surpassed mine at this point. So, I did start watching Don't Panic as well. Have you guys seen this movie?
It sounds familiar.
I know it got a re-release a couple years ago, and it was like all the talks when it came out, but it's got like elements of Nightmare on Elm Street going on in it. And I'm trying to think if there's any notable cast. There's probably like nobody's, but a guy on his 17th birthday has friends over when he shouldn't. His parents were all mad about it. There's a Ouija board, and they accidentally unleash a demon. That old story, you know?
So, Witchboard? No.
Yeah, no.
Night of the Demons? No.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I don't think I've seen
I
it.
started watching it last night, but it seems like it could get promising when the kills come, but a lot of build up thus far.
Dave, what's your next retro title?
This is one, since I had some extra time to kill, I broke out a 70s classic and watched A Bridge Too Far, Richard Attenborough's 70s war movie about the invasion of Holland.
Some nice light viewing.
You know, there's something about those 70s movies, those late 70s movies, where they just pack them with like all of these named stars. It's like, oh, look, there's Sean Connery. There's Edward Fox. There's Michael Caine. There's James Caan.
The
There's
more names you could cut to in a trailer, the better.
It was so cool because there's so many actors in there, but it's still a great story and amazingly told. But it's a Richard Attenborough film, so it's one of those you need to have a little extra time if you want to break that out.
I feel like I remember my local library had that, and I would just check out, whatever old movies they had, and it was always one that I would pick up and look at the running time and put back because I didn't know if isn't it like 2.5 hours or something like
Oh
that?
yeah, it's a stretch. But although now like 2.5 hours is like, oh yeah, that's a short Marvel movie.
Exactly. Now movies about people who can fly and shoot laser beams out of their eyes are 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Yeah, that seemed to be a thing in the 70s where they would pull all the stars together. Where did that start? Airport the big kickoff? That had Towering Inferno, of course. But that
Definitely
was like
those.
74.
I mean, you could probably go back to like Ten Commandments where you had these just name after name after name after name.
That is true, yeah. And we talked about it on the podcast before where Disney was all about that for a while. Like it was guest star city in every single live action movie they had. You never knew who you were going to see.
You hack the cast, and it's like, wait, is that is that Anthony Hopkins? Oh yeah, that is. Or is that wait, is that Maximilian Schell playing a Nazi commander? Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, it's almost like I feel like you should have a bingo card. You should just, if you spot them, you can mark off the square.
Yeah.
Did that have like spectacular, large scale battle sequences and things like that?
Oh yeah, huge battle sequences and Robert Redford. Don't forget Robert. And this is late 70s when Robert Redford was Robert Redford, man. So cool stuff. And it's a very dense book because I've actually read the book by Cornelius Ryan. It's a very dense book, so it's another one of those. Okay, you compressed a lot of stuff into 2.5 hours, but it's still interesting. Great retro throwback watch.
That's the kind of thing I would love to have the opportunity to see on the big screen, partly for the scope of it, and partly when a film is longer and if it does have slow stretches or whatever, it's just easier for me to focus and not get distracted or pulled away from something when I'm in the theater and I'm not in control of it, It's not the kind of film, unfortunately, most theaters would run at this point unless it's around, Veterans Day or D-Day.
Yeah, the
Like that,
war.
but
We've never tapped in. Well, have we? I don't think we really tapped
I
in.
mean, we ran Inglorious Bastards, but it wasn't really, that was part of a Tarantino thing, not really as a war movie thing. People suggest it once in a while, but it always comes down to Prince and whether we think enough people would show up to like cover our costs for the night.
Something like maybe like Saving Private Ryan or something like that.
Oh yeah, there's definitely candidates. You know what I mean? There's definitely candidates that would work. Patton around 4th of July.
It would be fun someday to try that, to throw up, to throw up upon the screen, to throw up on the screen, to play the movie, something that's older like that, 60s, whatever. There are so many like iconic war movies that just nobody plays anymore.
Like
it would be
Dirty Dozen.
We did do the Dirty Dozen once, and unfortunately, the number of paid customers did not add up to greater than the number of people in the Dirty Dozen. Which was a shame because I was really excited. Everybody who was there was excited. I don't know if it was because it was at the end of a weekend where like a lot of people had traveled and they were going back home or what it was, but it was a bummer.
Yeah. Or even like Kelly's Heroes. That's another great one. I mean, you got Eastwood, Sutherland. I mean, wow, that's it.
I want us to do a Clint Eastwood weekend and call it Clintathon, which is something they used to call Clint Eastwood marathons back in the 60s and 70s, partly because the movies are great and partly because if you put the L and the I close enough together on the marquee, you can have a fantastic photo op. Which actually did happen back then. Didn't Joel from Mystery Science Theater tell us a story about somebody messing around? Yes, it was for Clint Eastwood flicks. It was on the marquee at a drive-in that he went to, and when he went in to see the movies, and when he left, somebody had put the L and the I together, and it looked like it said something else. Check out that podcast episode.
Listen, we can create all kinds of interesting advertising for that one. We can basically say, come out to the Mahoning and we'll help you find the Clint.
Yeah, the t-shirts. I could just see them now.
I recently watched, again, somehow this movie had always been just outside my grasp, despite having owned it on disc for many years. 1967's Valley of the Dolls, the original, that is based on the Jacqueline Suzanne novel that was a soapy, sleazy, salacious tale of three women who go out to Hollywood to become big stars. I don't know if it's necessarily completely Hollywood based, but they go into show business and they find all kinds of pitfalls and terrible experiences. And it's sort of become a camp classic because of how like outrageous the story gets in certain areas. And it was fun. You know, it wasn't, I came to the world of Valley of the Dolls via Russ Meyer's Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, which I love, which is really written by Roger Ebert, which is really a spoof of Valley of the Dolls taken to like insane Russ Meyer extremes. So to go backwards to Valley of the Dolls, it's a much more sedate movie, but it's still fun. It's still gorgeous to look at. The cast is crazy with Sharon Tate and Patty Duke and other people. Martin Milner is in there. I said it that way because I wanted to be the only person on earth today who got excited about seeing Martin Milner. And it's fun. It's got a good score, but I ultimately was a little disappointed that it maybe wasn't more exciting than it was. But that I would suggest one day we do a double of those two movies if there are prints of both, because another print of Beyond the Valley.
I know Beyond there is one, right?
Because Valley of the Dolls has a pretty big like camp cult following as well.
But it also has I think the Sharon Tate connection in that one too,
True.
because that was Sharon Tate's big breakthrough role, and obviously the story that goes along with her. So seeing her in her big breakthrough role is kind of interesting, knowing the history there.
Yeah, absolutely. I did watch Cronenberg's Shivers.
Yes.
Recently.
AKA They Came From Within.
Yeah, really, really great kind of grindhousey feel to it, you know? Definitely a perfect movie for the Mahoning, you know? I was trying to think of whether or not it could stand on its own too, you know, with a single feature, if it kind of needed to be in the Cronenberg lineup or a Real Weird or something like that. And ironically, the thing I watched that same night after that was Slither, which has the kind of crossover, I guess, going on there. Slither, I really enjoyed the practical effects, but it's one that I remembered very fondly. And the characters I just didn't like as much this time when I watched it, you know? Those effects still rocked, that is for sure. I think it could definitely work on the Mahoning screen. One that could probably work standalone in kind of a modern type of setting, but that was James Gunn, right?
James Gunn, yeah, Superman director. That's current head of the DC universe.
That's right, yes.
And the director of all the Guardians of the Galaxy films.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think the big sell for this movie is the fact that it leans very heavily into practical effects. It has a bunch of CGI, that's for sure. But you could tell there's a true love for the practical goodness going on.
You can see, like, James Gunn always kind of has his
peeps.
His peeps, yeah, like Nathan Fillion, and you always get like
Brooker was in there.
Yes, Henry Porges. It's neat that he always kind of finds roles for his peeps too.
Yeah, it very much this era reminds me of kind of the Kevin Smith thing, where it's like he found a way to work with his friends. You could tell he's having a ball making these movies. But yeah, it's strange that those two kind of have that crossover. Yeah, but what's your next, Dave?
There's a cool documentary I saw that you would love as an old school VHS guy, Verge. It's called We Kill for Love. It's on Shudder right now, and it's basically a documentary about all of those late 80s, 90s erotic thrillers that used to crank out.
That's a big thing, yeah.
It is so interesting how, like, they interview a lot of the actors and actresses, directors, producers who made those. You know, because it'd be like all you had to do is like pick, you know, they would say like you pick just two, like Naked and Obsession, and you got a movie. You know.
Naked
were
Fatal
so
Instinct.
many of those. Yeah, like Hit the Road, Bonnie and Clyde style for the new era,
That was
But
a staple of Cinemax After Dark as well.
they always had that look, that like neon 80s, 90s look and the tailored but it was a really fascinating documentary that kind of tracked how, like the rise of them was basically tied to video stores needing material
Yeah.
or HBO and Cinemax and then how basically Blockbuster and then having more space for the hits gave these less space, which led to their decline. And it's really interesting. So it's on Shudder. So if you get a chance, it's called We Kill for Love.
Heck yeah. I love deep dive like subgenre documentaries. I think the movie documentaries in general, it reminds me of why I fell in love with, the special features on Blu-rays and DVDs and all that stuff. It's that deep dive fan appreciation that you got to eat up.
Shudder also got Chain Reactions, which is that documentary which interviews multiple people about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Yes.
including Stephen King. His part is and Patton Oswalt and some really cool people that they interview about their reactions and their kind of visual interpretations of Texas Chainsaw. So it's another one that Shudder just got too. It was very
Oh,
good.
hell yeah. And that is supposedly included on that big 4K release, which from what I understand has 11 cuts of Texas Chainsaw Massacre on that disc or on
It's
that
something
set.
I was supposed to get a review copy of that, and I thought it was just the Chain Reactions disc itself had multiple. It's not necessarily the different cuts. It was here's the Super 8 version, here's a 16 millimeter print, here's a 35 millimeter print. Like you could see all these
Yeah.
different forms of how the film has looked to different audiences over the years, which is just it's crazy if that's like in full. I don't know
It
how they
is
fit it all.
crazy. I love that they included a grindhouse cut, which is just like it toured the country and was kind of the print that you would see at drive-ins, late night, and it's just it's wild. It has a little bit less of a running time. I guess certain elements were taken out of it, but for somebody who's such a fan of that movie, I just love that we're at a place where it's like you can buy something that physically has 11 different cuts of the movie that you love.
I have double dipped, triple dipped. I've bought so many
Oh, it's
variations, versions
endless.
on that movie. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It really does become that thing of like, at what point am I okay? But if it's the fandom, they get you every single
Yeah,
time.
because they're like, well, there's this new extra that we're adding on this one. You're like, damn it. All right.
You got me. You got me. Yeah, but I love that if that's going to be the way that we go with these things where it's like they're digging up all sorts of different versions and cuts and displaying the negatives and the kind of nitty-gritty prints. It's
I love physical meat. There was on the new release of Dogma, Kevin Smith always does like an introduction to all of his films on the discs. And he does a great conversation on this or introduction where he talks about physical media and collecting physical media. And I was sitting there like, yeah, he gets it, man. He
right.
gets it.
It is. It's one of those things that it was such a part of who we are. Like I think about it all the time, the video store days and the era. To be able to just have a place to go as a movie fan that's not a movie theater and just kind of let your mind go wild. I miss it so much. And I think a lot goes into it where it's like it was a commitment anytime that you went out and got a movie. And there wasn't this idea of it just being disposable. You spent money on it. You have a limited time to watch it. It's one of those things I think lost with time, but really was a key part to a lot of our lives.
Oh, yeah.
What's your next, Mark?
Well, I think I only can do one more, and it's a coin toss. Part of me wants to talk about what we ran at our Simplex virtual screening for Patreon last week. I don't know if you guys saw that one. And the
Yeah.
other is a new Blu-ray that I just got. Let's talk about the Blu-ray because that's actually a lot easier for people to see if they want to. This is 1979's The Visitor. This is a film that I don't think it was really released much in this country when it came out. It's an Italian-made film, but it was shot mostly in Atlanta with an English-speaking cast. Produced by the man who brought you Beyond the Door, speaking of the Road Show. And this is this insane movie with John Huston as like a semi Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of character who is looking to find this child who may or may not become the Antichrist, but they've retold the story of like Jesus and Satan as though that they're aliens that came to Earth. And it's got Franco Nero as this blonde Jesus kind of character who's looking over a bunch of these bald kids. And should I keep going? And basically he goes to Atlanta. Houston goes to Atlanta to find this kid. And she is this just not much of an actress, which makes all of her lines even funnier. This kid who's sort of like, it's like this cross between like The Omen and The Exorcist and The Bad Seed, basically, where this kid has these powers that she uses to do people in who she doesn't like. And Lance Henriksen is like her sort of stepfather to be. And her mother is portrayed by Joanne Nail, who is sort of like the lead girl in Switchblade Sisters, speaking of the Roadshow. And it's just, it's bonkers. You never know where it's going to go. It's got crazy stunts and special effects that are pretty good. And this really bombastic score that just like kicks in randomly that makes any moment feel like it's this penultimate moment of existence when it might just be John Huston walking down an escalator. It's quite a lot. It had been briefly re-released in theaters back in like, I want to say 2014 or earlier, by Draft House Pictures, and they put out a Blu-ray of it. And now Arrow has a new 4K of it coming out sometime in February, and that's what I just watched. So if you've never seen The Visitor, oh my God. The whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, I really want to see this indoors in a theater with people who don't know what they're about to get, because there would be laughing and applauding and cheering throughout, I think. And it is that era of big actors slumming. I guess the same producer also had made the movie Tentacles, which is also wonderfully bad. And John Huston had been in that, as well as Shelley Winters, who's also in this film. Never for a Moment Subtle, dependably, with Shelley Winters. And who else? Glenn Ford is in this movie. Like all these people who, it was predominantly shot in Atlanta, but I think the interiors were done in Rome. So I think it was a whole lot of actors going, I could do a week or two in Rome. Sure.
Yeah, let's do it. I remember the cover of this
big eyeball
movie. Yeah, it's like a big eyeball. And I think it might have been included in the Peckinpah documentary. Is Sam Peckinpah?
Yes, he's in that.
Yeah.
Apparently his role was bigger, but he was so like drunk most of the time.
That sounds about right.
But he's in one scene as a doctor named Sam, who apparently is like the ex-husband of Joanne Nail's character. Totally forgot about that. It's just all these names that pop up, and he gets billing like over Shelley Winters in the film.
Of course. I mean, you know.
It's we ran it as one of the earlier Simplex virtual shows, and it went over really well. And I recommend it if you like goofy movies.
Yeah, bonkers cinema. I really want to watch, because we just got the word Virgie's got off from school and our plans have totally changed. I really want to watch McCabe and Miss Miller.
I've still never seen it.
You've never seen it? Oh, perfect for the snow, since we're kind of all snowed in at this point.
I know it's Rob's favorite movie.
And we can't get a print of it. It kills me.
The art house near me, the Jacob Burns Film Center, which is amazing. They had this gallery where they had a whole bunch of like original poster art and different like unused poster designs for classic movies. McCabe and Mrs. Miller's poster is like an image of, it looks like a shingle that you would hang outside a business in the Old West. And it's painted like their faces and the title on that. At the Jacob Burns Film Center, they had the actual piece of wood that was painted on and photographed to make that poster. And it was just stunning to see, like, oh my God, it's really a hunk of wood. But so I've never seen that.
I'd highly recommend it.
No, I've never seen that one. It's
really,
yeah, it's I've heard of it.
Definitely for this snowy, snowy setting, But it is amazing performances. I think Robert Altman at his best, and that really is one of those directors I've been trying to find a way to get up on the screen. I think Long Goodbye could probably work. MASH might be able to talk about another good, kickback war movie. I think maybe the easiest. Oh, go ahead. The Player would be a great one.
That's a great movie. A lot of inside Hollywood kind of stuff, but Tim Robbins does an amazing performance in that. Just he's as he becomes slowly and slowly more unhinged as the movie goes.
Yes. I think probably the easiest layup for us, programming wise, would probably be Popeye. I think there's a semi resurgence in love for that movie. I
It's
know
getting
I
shown a lot lately, and there is a print. I've seen it. I love that movie. I saw it when I was a kid in the theater, and I've never
do
not loved it.
too.
I did too.
And the whole thing is like it was a huge flop, right?
Oh, big time.
It was critically a flop, and it wasn't as big as I think they thought it was going to be, but I remember people liking it. I remember it hitting HBO and TV and things like that. I think it just wasn't with Robin Williams being in it and Robert Altman doing it, and it was like a Disney Paramount co-production. I think they expected it was going to be huge, and it didn't.
They literally built the entire village. They had for
Wow.
that film.
And
They
I heard
built-
it was like around for the longest time. Is it
It's still there.
around?
It's called the
Wow.
Popeye Village, and you can still go. And they have like shows with people dressed as the characters.
Oh, come on.
It's in
That's-
Malta. So if you ever want to go to Malta, you can walk the same boards they did in that movie.
That would be a great thing along Sunday.
It's a fun movie because it's like your typical Altman thing where there's just always something going on.
Mhm.
When you're when you're going through the village, there's just like always something going on.
Yeah, I love Altman so much. I think maybe the way to do it is to literally do like a double bubble tribute night, like we did for De Palma or whoever else, We got time for one more, Mark?
I think we have time for Dave to, as they
Dave?
say in the trade, finish us off.
Oh man, I was all wrapped up in Popeye and my mental.
I mean, I could do 2 hours on Popeye. Well, maybe if we screen it, we can all
Shelley
reconvene.
Duvall, I mean, come on. When she was cute as olive oil, how can you beat that? But I have been going through like a Kevin Smith jag here, so I figured you'd appreciate that, Verge. Kind of went through the Clerks series and Mallrats and kind of getting the new version of Dogma kind of kicked that off. It was so cool to get that on Blue finally. I was so excited to get Dogma.
And I heard it crushed too. It did really well as far as like sales go. People were really excited about that re-release restoration.
They should be. It's beautiful.
We've never played that. From what I understand, Kevin has a print. Maybe one day, if we get him to come out, we can be like, look, bring that print with you. We want to make that thing happen. Yeah, but Kevin definitely is that guy that got me really into special features because it's even before, podcasts were a big thing. Like I remember listening to his commentaries for Clerks and Mallrats and eventually Chasing Amy. And it was almost like a mini podcast. I felt like I'm hanging out with these guys that I love, not just their work, like I love who they are, And it really sent me down that rabbit hole that I still haven't gotten out of like wanting to hear insight from people on their projects, Is that Blu-ray packed or what? Is it like made?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's totally packed. And it's, as I said, the transfer is gorgeous. There's so many good extras. And the movie itself, I literally love that movie. It's got a great cast. And who doesn't want to see Alanis Morissette as God? You've got, George Carlin. Anything with George Carlin in, I love. So,
but the fact Carlin didn't have a bigger movie career is just, or that he found it late in life, it just baffles me. But God bless Kevin Smith for being able to bring that character, quote unquote, to the big screen. Mark, you got any other ones or?
No, I think I need to run because speaking of old movies, I am about to see for the first time in my life Streets of Fire.
Wow.
Which I never, when it came out, I was never interested. And it was just never one that interested me until more recent years where everybody was talking about it so much and it's been screening so much. I was always like, well, I'm just going to wait and see it on the big screen. It plays all the time. And tonight is that time. Our friends, Brian Darvis and Jen Carchietta are presenting a 35 millimeter print at my local Alamo Draft House. And I'm going to get in my car and safely drive on freshly plowed roads so that I can finally see this movie.
I will be excited to hear your thoughts afterwards.
Yeah, Rick Moranis in a kind of like a villain role, which really like throws things through a loop. But
Willem Dafoe.
and the soundtrack, obviously.
Oh, the soundtrack's great. I remember when it came out, there was always this shot in the TV ads of William Dafoe screaming, and this was before he was famous. And my friend and I always said, that's the guy who can fit 5 softballs in his mouth. Now, at the size his mouth will be on the screen I'm seeing it on, he probably could.
Dafoe night would be awesome. That's what we got to do, you know.
Yeah, we'll end it with Antichrist.
All right, dudes. Well, thank you for making the time. Thank you for giving the audience a great podcast, as always. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up for the podcast, a lot of good interviews, and I think we're going to get some owner-operator stuff back. So stay tuned for all that good stuff. And on that note, Jeff, take it away, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for coming out tonight to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. We hope you'll come back and see us again real soon. The exit is on the right-hand side of the screen at the front of the field, and most importantly, have a very safe trip home. Good night, and God bless you.